What did NVIDIA do today and why does it matter? That's the topic for today's video. Let's first think about all the implications that NVIDIA has on the broader markets. Now, it's not just about the split, but it's about the weighting. So that's really where we're going to talk about the percentage weighting NVIDIA has in the NASDAQ, in the S&P, in the SMH, and in the XLK. The XLK being the number one weighted sector in both the S&P and the NASDAQ, the number one weighted stock in the semiconductors ETF, and the number, I think, 3 or 4 stock in XLK. So what NVIDIA does matters a lot, way beyond the split. So first of all, let's talk about what we have here. On earnings, it was announced we get a 10-for-1 split. Traders would have to hold, or investors would have to hold, the stock until June 6th, the split happening here on the 7th. All right, once the split happens, and at the end of day, if you've got NVIDIA on the 7th, right, you had to own it by the 6th, now you get your 10-for-1. All right. Now, are traders necessarily hanging out for the split, or are they taking advantage of the climb higher, which is sort of that pre-split hype, that pre-split rally, because retail investors are going to buy NVIDIA in anticipation of the split? Okay, that's the logic. Now, once we get there, you can see there was some profit taking on the 6th because those traders that had a really nice trade, and congrats if that was you as well, had a really nice run. And what are you going to do? You're going to get out before the 7th because guess what we did? We gapped lower. And even though it was up, you can see it was down on the open and rather weak. But let's not take the move in NVIDIA out of context. This is still very much an uptrend. Now, NVIDIA's move to the downside today was very much in line. Let me show you the lows today. Today we got down to a low of 1180. All right, 1180. So if you see that today's low right down in here, if I'm looking at a 5% pullback, right, a 5% pullback from 1255.87, 1193 is a 5% pullback. We were 13 points under that. So not quite to the 10% at 1130, but certainly a 5% pullback from the highs. I want to see a little bit more weakness before I buy NVIDIA. In other words, I'd like to see it do what it's done throughout its uptrend. Take a look at every time price sinks into the daily price movement range. We have, for the most part, continued higher, except for, of course, this day, where we know this is that split window, and we don't want to do this there. But after the split, come Monday, I will not be surprised to see a little bit more weakness in NVIDIA. We did not punch up to a higher high. We didn't punch down to much really significantly a lower low. So to see lower lows, maybe to the 1130 area, we'd have to take out the 1180 level. And I'll look for that sometime next week. So there's very much still a buy here. All I'm looking to do is take advantage of the pullback. Now, the other place that we can look is in semiconductors. NVIDIA's narrative is the most impactful because of the weighting, but if we think about what's going on within the SMH, this is where the story gets much more full of opportunity. What are the stocks that are moving higher within the SMH, aside from NVIDIA, right? The SMH itself, which is a very liquid ETF, Taiwan Semi, ASML, Qualcomm, Micron, and AMD. Put those names, Taiwan Semi, ASML, Qualcomm, MU, and AMD, on the watch list, because if I have, and that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 6 out of the top 11 stocks that are moving higher. The other 3 that I'm looking at, Texas Instrument, AMAT, and LRCX, are not weak. They're just not in uptrends. The only weakness here is Intel. So when you've got really 10 out of the top 11 stocks in semiconductors moving higher, playing the tide and not the boats is another opportunity. And SMH is a really great bang for your buck. Not only will it have a lot of NVIDIA included in that position because of the weighting, you'll have the benefit of those other strength names there as well. So the NVIDIA pullback is integral to getting that daily price movement range entry. Now, what about if we extend it to the top of the food chain in the NASDAQ? Why does that pullback matter? Because NASDAQ is weighted with XLK, it includes NVIDIA, and NASDAQ has weighting, of course, in the index in NVIDIA as well. So in order to get that next pullback in the NASDAQ that we would want to buy, we need some weakness. So NVIDIA is just one catalyst next week for some of these setups. The other one is the FOMC meeting on Wednesday. Now, I'll talk about that more in the free video on Tuesday, but keep in mind that if you're looking about the Wednesday timing for swing entries, it will make a lot of sense to either take a short-term swing on Monday with the expectation to be flat or scale out with profits before 2 p.m. on Wednesday, or we'll use Wednesday as the next swing window. And the implications are not only for the NASDAQ, but for the S&P as well. Non-farm payroll really was not much of a needle mover because it was a mixed bag. Yes, we printed a huge 272,000 jobs number when expectations were down at 180 to 190. However, inflation ticked up 1/10, and the wage inflation ticked up. So those two would be considered kind of bullish, while the non-farm payroll number would be considered bearish, because we are still in a bad news, right, is bullish, and good news is bearish environment. And that's a wrap for Friday. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I do check the questions and the comments. And thanks as always for watching and smashing that like button. I'll see you in the next update. Hey traders, Raghee from Simpler Trading. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like and a comment below. And remember, subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll get notified of the next update. And when you're ready to join me for live trading, be sure to head on over to simplertrading.com. I'll see you in the next update.